I never should have ordered it, I know that now, but at the time I was just curious, bored. Browsing the dark web had become a habit, a twisted way to kill time when sleep wouldn't come. It started with watching bizarre auctions, skimming eerie chat rooms, lurking where I didn't belong. Then I found the listing. Lifelike human doll, ultra-realistic, limited stock. The picture showed a mannequin-like figure, pale, with glassy blue eyes and an unsettlingly perfect expression. The description claimed it was crafted with hyper-realistic skin, molded from an unknown polymer to mimic the warmth and texture of a real person. A handcrafted masterpiece. I wasn't planning to buy it, but something about that face, the eerily hollow stare, the way the seller promised an experience like no other, it got under my skin. It was cheap, too cheap for something that detailed. I paid in crypto. No shipping details, no tracking number, just a message. Expect delivery soon, do not be afraid. The box arrived 4 days later. No return address, no markings, just a plain, battered wooden crate nailed shut. My stomach twisted as I pried it open, the scent of something strange and faintly metallic seeping into my apartment. Inside, wrapped in thick, crinkled plastic, was the doll. It was heavier than I expected, limp, cold, dressed in a thin white gown, skin waxy, eyes closed. The moment I touched its arm, something felt off. It wasn't firm like plastic, it wasn't smooth like silicone. It was soft, too soft, the way skin should be. I swallowed hard, nudging its head to the side. No seams, no joints, no synthetic ridges. The lashes looked real, fine and delicate. The lips slightly parted, revealing something that looked disturbingly organic beneath. A whisper of unease curled in my chest. This wasn't a doll. It couldn't be. Then, just as I turned away, the thing's eyelids fluttered. Barely. A fraction of a second. It blinked. I froze. My breath hitched in my throat, my pulse hammering so hard I swore it echoed in the silent room. The thing lay still, motionless. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me, but the feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. I stepped back. The floor creaked beneath me, the only sound breaking the thick, suffocating silence. I should have left it alone, closed the box, called someone, anyone, but instead I reached out. My fingers hovered over its wrist. Slowly I pressed down. Warm, not room temperature, not plastic. Warm, like skin heated by blood just beneath the surface. I yanked my hand away, my breath coming in short, uneven bursts. No, this wasn't right. Dolls weren't warm. They didn't have a subtle rise and fall to their chest like the shallow rhythm of... I stumbled back, knocking into the table. A dull thud echoed as something slid off and hit the floor. My eyes darted to the doll's face, and then, ever so slightly, the lips moved. A faint, barely audible sound slipped out, hoarse, raw, like dry paper tearing. I couldn't tell if it was a sigh or a moan. I staggered toward the door, every nerve in my body screaming to run. But before I could move, before I could even think, the eyes snapped open. They weren't glass, they weren't painted on. They were real, wet, bloodshot, terrified. The mouth opened wider, lips trembling, cracked. And then, in a voice so weak it barely existed, "Please," I clamped a hand over my mouth. It wasn't a doll. It was a person. My stomach twisted. My skin went cold. Every instinct screamed at me to move, to do something, but I couldn't. I just stood there, staring at the thing. The person, lying in that box, blinking up at me with eyes filled with something between terror and exhaustion. It tried to speak again, but the sound came out broken, raw, like her throat had been scraped dry. I backed away, shaking my head. No, this wasn't real. This was some sick joke, some hyper-realistic AI trick. I wasn't looking at a person. I couldn't be. But then I saw her fingers. They twitched, just barely. Struggling to move, like they'd been numb for too long. She wasn't breathing right. Shallow, weak. The white gown she wore clung to her like it hadn't been changed in days, maybe longer. Her skin, up close, now that I could really see it, wasn't waxy, it was dry, dehydrated, pale with bruises lining the inside of her wrists. This wasn't a doll. This was a drugged, half-conscious human being, and I had paid for her. A sharp sting of bile rose in my throat. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone, swiping wildly to dial 911, but the screen glitched. Then it went black. A soft chime rang out in the apartment. My laptop screen flickered. The dark web page where I'd placed the order reloaded on its own. A new message had appeared. "Congratulations on your purchase. Enjoy responsibly." My vision blurred. My chest tightened. I had to get her out. I rushed forward, hands fumbling at the plastic still wrapped around her legs. But as soon as I pulled at the restraints, she made a noise. A small, broken whimper. Not from pain, from fear. I looked up. Her eyes darted past me, wide and frantic, locked on something behind me. A slow, creeping dread slithered down my spine. I turned. The door. It wasn't locked anymore. It was open. A shadow moved in the hall, heavy footsteps. Whoever had sent the package had come to collect it. The last thing I heard was a soft click. The lights cut out. The screen of my laptop flickered once. Then the page refreshed. Order processing for resale. The email arrived at 2:13 a.m. No sender, no subject, just a single line of text. "We are gathered here today to mourn the passing of..." I frowned. Probably spam, some phishing attempt. But something about it gnawed at me. My name, spelled perfectly, first and last. Attached was a single link, a live stream. I knew better. Clicking unknown links was a mistake. But my curiosity got the better of me. I tapped it. The screen flickered. A video player loaded, buffering. Then, black and white footage of a funeral. A large wooden casket sat at the front of a dimly lit church. Candles flickered. A priest stood beside the coffin, head bowed, murmuring words I couldn't hear. The camera panned. The pews were filled with people, their faces blurred, features smudged like a badly edited photo. My stomach twisted. Something about the coffin was wrong. The camera zoomed in, giving a clear shot of the engraved plaque. My breath hitched. It had my full name, my birth date, today's date beneath it. I stared. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. No, this wasn't real. It was a prank. Had to be. Then the priest stepped aside. The camera shifted, tilting downward as unseen hands lifted the lid. My fingers clenched around my phone. A low ringing filled my ears. Inside the coffin was me. I dropped my phone. It hit the floor with a dull thud, screen still glowing. No, that wasn't possible. It couldn't be me. But I had seen it. My own face, pale and lifeless, framed by dark satin, my hands folded neatly over my chest, the suit I didn't own. The unnatural stillness of death. I forced a breath, my lungs suddenly too tight. It was a trick, a deep fake, some sick joke. But then the audio crackled, a voice, distant and muffled, like it was speaking from underwater. "We mourn the passing of..." my name. "Taken too soon. We remember him as he was." The camera panned again. A figure in the front row, someone sitting motionless. I squinted. The blurring effect was strong, distorting the face, but the shape, the posture, felt familiar. The figure was watching the coffin. I reached for my phone, hand shaking, and turned the volume up. A sound filtered through. Breathing. Slow, deliberate. I swallowed hard. My mouth was dry. Then the camera moved too fast. It tilted, jerking sideways, zooming in as if the operator had suddenly noticed something. The figure in the front row finally turned its head. I stopped breathing, because even with the distortion, I recognized the way it tilted slightly, the way the shoulders hunched forward, the exact shape of the jaw. The figure watching my funeral was me. I couldn't move. My own face, blurred, distorted, but unmistakable, watching from the front row. The camera held steady, the air heavy with silence. No one else moved. The priest's lips still shifted, but there was no sound. The candles flickered, casting warped shadows along the church walls. Then the figure, the other me, slowly turned its head toward the camera. My vision blurred, my heartbeat thundered. This isn't real, it's a nightmare. A deep fake, a prank. But then my phone buzzed. A message popped up. No number, no name. We see you. I let out a strangled breath. My fingers trembled as I swiped the notification away, but my phone wouldn't respond. The screen glitched, static crawling across the display. The live stream distorted for a second, then stabilized. The camera angle had changed. It wasn't showing the funeral anymore, it was showing me. Not in the coffin, here, in my apartment. My stomach dropped. The video showed my exact position, sitting on my bed, phone in hand, staring at the screen. A shaky night vision view from inside my room. Someone was filming me. The air in my lungs turned to ice. My head snapped up. The room was dark, too dark, but then a creak. Behind me. I turned so fast I nearly fell. My closet door was open, just a crack, but enough for me to see it, a sliver of pale skin, a hand pressed against the inside of the door, still waiting. Then in the live stream, the figure stepped out. I didn't see it in real life, just on my screen, just moving toward me in the night vision feed. Slow, deliberate. My phone buzzed again. It's time to say goodbye. The screen flickered. Then the video cut out. The room was silent, but behind me, I heard the floor creak. I shouldn't have been on the dark web. I knew better. I'd heard the stories. Red rooms, hitmen for hire, human trafficking auctions. It was all supposed to be urban legend, right? Just internet myths. But that night I was bored. Restless, so I went deeper than usual, clicking links I shouldn't, poking around in encrypted forums. That's when I saw it. A thread, buried among dead links and nonsense spam, live red room, private, invite only. Real stream, no fake. I almost scrolled past it, almost, but there was a link at the bottom. No password, no registration, just an open door. I hesitated. My stomach twisted, but my curiosity was stronger. I clicked. The page loaded slowly. A grainy video player appeared, black screen, a countdown timer in the corner. 0:05, 0:04, 0:03. I swallowed. My mouse hovered over the exit button. This is fake. It has to be. Then the screen flickered to life. A dimly lit room, stained concrete walls, chains hanging from the ceiling, a single chair in the center, and in it, a man, tied down, blindfolded, gagged, chest rising and falling in panicked, shallow breaths. The camera zoomed in, jittery, like someone was holding it, stepping closer. The quality was bad, but I could see the fear in the man's trembling hands. This wasn't fake. I grabbed my mouse, ready to close the window. Then a voice crackled through the speakers, deep, cold. "Welcome, my real name. We've been waiting for you." My body locked up. My hands hovered over the keyboard, but I couldn't move. The voice had spoken my name. My real name. I never signed up, never gave any personal info. But the voice on the stream spoke again, calm and patient. "Don't leave, Mao. The show is just beginning." The camera zoomed in. The bound man jerked in his chair, muffled screams pushing through the gag. A shadow moved at the edge of the frame. Someone else was in the room. A figure stepped forward, a masked man, tall and still. He held something long, glinting under the dim light. A knife. He turned, looking directly into the camera. The chat box at the bottom of the screen flooded with messages. "Cut him. Start with the fingers. Burn his eyes." My stomach twisted. These weren't bots. They were real people. I grabbed my mouse, yanking it toward the exit button. The screen glitched, froze. Then, a new message appeared in bold red text. "Don't touch that. You're next." A chill ran down my spine. My name, flashing in red. They knew me. My address, my face. Were they watching me right now? The screen flickered. The masked man raised the knife, tilting his head slightly as if listening. The bound victim thrashed, muffled screams breaking through the gag. The chat exploded with cheers. I lunged for the power button, held it. Nothing. The screen stayed on. My hand shook as I yanked at the power cord. Still nothing. The laptop was frozen, trapped in this nightmare. Then, a chime. A new message. "Running won't help. We're already inside." I stopped breathing. My pulse pounded in my ears. Inside? My apartment was silent. Too silent. I turned, scanning the room. The windows were shut, the door locked. No one was here. But something felt off. A heavy presence, a pressure in the air. Then, a soft creak. From the hallway. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. I swallowed hard. It had to be my neighbors. The walls were thin, but no, these footsteps weren't coming from outside. They were inside my apartment. My phone buzzed. A notification, a live video feed. My fingers hesitated before tapping it open. The screen loaded. A camera was streaming my front door. From the outside, the image shook slightly like it was being held by someone standing just a few feet away. Then the camera tilted up. A figure stood there. A mask, a knife. I clamped a hand over my mouth. My lungs wouldn't work. The figure didn't move, just stood there, watching, waiting. My laptop screen flickered again. The live stream had changed. It was now showing me, right now, sitting in front of my laptop, the dim glow of my screen reflecting in my wide, terrified eyes. Then, in the live feed, the closet door behind me slowly creaked open. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. My body refused to move. My breath came in short, sharp gasps. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. The chat flooded with messages. "He sees it. Don't turn around. Too late now." Then, a whisper. Not from the speakers. From behind me. "Showtime." The screen glitched. The stream cut out. My apartment was thrown into suffocating darkness. The last thing I heard was the soft scrape of a blade against the wall, and then, nothing.